Alright guys, today we got a follow-up of absolute value inequalities. It was on yesterday's video, but just a quick review before we actually do several of them in class tomorrow. So here we go. First of all, if you see absolute value and less than, wow, easy for me to say. Just think about what answers would be here, what would work. -2 would work, -1 would work, 0 would work, 1 would work, 2 would work. Everything that's less than 3 and also greater than -3 would work. So, like a half would still work, all those numbers. So really you could write it like this. You could say, well, anything between 3 and -3 would actually solve that right there. So less than kind of works like that. Let's look at a greater than. Let's look at a greater than, see what happens with that. Think about things that would work in there. For example, 4 would work, 5 would work. Those are all, if you put them in here, they would all be bigger than 3. Also, if I put a -4, a -5, a -6, they would also work because absolute value would make them positive. So things that are working there are things that are bigger than 3 or things that are less than -3 are working. So when it was a less than, it was an and, it kind of came together. And when it was a greater than, it was an or. So here's our rule we're going to live by. If you see absolute value and greater than, we're going to call it an or problem. If you see absolute value and less than, we're going to call it an and problem. The fancy name, math term, is a disjunction for the or and a conjunction for the and, like conjunction, junction. You know the rest. Okay, so let's try one of each. This is an absolute value, and that's the less than symbol. So it means it's an and problem. It's a conjunction. So I can write it like this. I can write it all together and put the 10 and -10. Remember yesterday's gesture. 2 bars, 2 answers. 2 bars, 2 answers. The answers are the same, a 10 and a -10. All you do to solve it is you subtract 6 from all 3 sides. That gives you an x of 4 and -16. They're going to ask you to write your answer in interval notation, which would be like this, -16 to 4. There's your interval notation. And if they ask you to draw a number line, you would put -16 here, 4 over here, filled in circles because there's an equal sign. If there wasn't, that would be empty circles, and shade in between. All right, one or problem, and we're done. If it's because it's greater than absolute value, and also make sure you isolate absolute value first. We haven't had to do that yet, but let's isolate it. So I'm going to say x plus 6 is greater than 10, or x plus 6 is less than -10. That gives the or. So just move the 6 over, get x is greater than 4, or x is less than -16. Now to do interval, when you do x is greater than 4, it would look like this, 4 to infinity. And when you do less than -16, it would be -infinity up to -16. And instead of putting or in the middle, we're going to put a little union symbol in the middle. If we were to graph it on a number line, I'll put my -16 over here. I'd put my 4 over here. Empty circles this time because there's no equal sign. And you'd shade greater than 4, and you would also shade less than -16. So ors, the graphs go away, ands, the graphs come together. And that's a good summary. That coupled with what you watched yesterday, and knowing 2 bars is 2 answers, you should be good to go. Less than, greater. See you tomorrow.